Hello everybody, this is Diane and I would love to take you on a tour of this Better Homes and Gardens sewing book journal. It is a 5-hole binder, a 5-ring binder, and it is in pretty good condition. I don't know the year. I didn't check the year, but it is in pretty good condition. It does have some marks on it. Like it's got marks it won't wash off. And there was a little dig in the cover here and some like scratches here or wearing on the spine. It wasn't like damaging the integrity of it, but it just didn't look very good. So I just put some fabric on there with some buttons and some needles. So it's a fat book. I know I probably filled it too full, so you can take pages out of it if you actually want to glue stuff on the pages, otherwise it's going to get pretty fat. But I wanted to fill it up for you, so I did. So inside I left the end paper as it was, and I just added this label that you can write your name or date or both or whatever. There are 5 of the divider pages in this journal. This one has a pattern envelope as a pocket. It's just the front of the envelope as a pocket, and I just embellished it with a little bit of fuzzy trim and some fabric. There's a card inside made with scrapbook paper and places to journal. This is cut from a pattern envelope. Some of the pieces, or maybe that's from a book, from the catalog. Some of these images are cut from actual vintage patterns, and some are cut from my pattern book from 1969. Most of them are from the pattern book. This is scrapbook paper and another scrapbook paper that looks like it's unbleached muslin or something. Looks like it's a photograph of fabric. There's a little fabric there, and this is fabric also sewn on. This is one of the cards that I just glued onto some scrapbook paper. It's from a vintage Simplicity book, or pattern, I mean. And then I did one fabric flip with the Simplicity fabric, and there's a spot for journaling. This is a thick tabbed index divider. There's vintage trim label there, bias trim label, some fabric, and a couple of authentique sewing cards. This paper here is authentique, so they came in the same collection. I don't think I had the whole collection. I had some pages, and I think somebody must have sent them to me. This is from this binder. It's so cute. And this is just a large picture card that I got at an antique mall. It was a whole set of large cards. They were bigger than this. I had to cut it down a little bit. But there happened to be a picture of a sewing machine, so I included that. This is a digital paper from Seneca Pond Crafts, Retro Chic Sewing. And I did put this card upside down because the numbers on the measuring tape are upside down, and I can't flip it around because I glued these ladies on. They both came from my sewing book catalog. This is I don't think that's a Mrs. Coggs image. I think I found that on Pinterest a long time ago because it's too big to be Mrs. Coggs. I put a tab on it. You can journal on the back. It's just been printed in my stash for a long time. You've seen this one if you saw my previous videos on what we can do with sewing patterns. I made this pleated skirt out of a sewing piece. It was a collar piece, pattern piece, I mean. And this was actually cut from a 1940s pattern envelope. And I just added the skirt to her, and there's all this stuff collaged on there. This is from a vintage 1950s or 40s Woman's Companion, I think, Woman's Home Companion magazine, and it had a lot of these images of different garments and the pattern pieces, and I added one of Nancy's little embellishments made out of fabric and buttons. Thank you, Nancy. I purchased them from her shop, Wishes and Weeds store. I don't know if she has any more. This is one of the post-it note cards I just thought it was cute, and it's nice and sturdy. I put that in there. This is a page from the 1969 catalog, and I just put just a little piece of fabric there. This is one of the authentic papers. And this was fun. I had these flashcards. I got a whole box of flashcards in different colors from eBay quite a while ago. And I saved out the ones that had anything to do with sewing. So I just glued them on this page and added some antique papery elements that I had left over from the last project I did. And I added some printable items. This is from Seneca Pond Crafts, and I added the pattern tissue ruffle that we did in one of our ephemera making videos. There's a stamp here. This is embroidery transfer, and you can open it right out, take it out of the book, cut these elements out, and use them to decorate your book. It's not meant to stay in your book, but I did put reinforcements on it, just in case you don't want to take it out. And I put behind each tab, somewhere behind each tab, I put some of the pages, one or two pages from the binder. There's a yellow envelope I just collaged on the back. There's some vintage trim there. This came off a pattern envelope. And inside is this card that was from the 1969 catalog, and it was one of the divider pages in the pattern catalog. So I just cut it down to size, put some journaling space on the back. This is such a fun binder. Here's another one of those images with the lady and the pattern pieces from the old magazine. Scrapbook paper. This is a strap for making your own lingerie. I believe that was a slip strap, and it's a vintage piece. And then a little flower that I made with pattern paper. This is the back of a pattern envelope, and I added some pretty braid trim up here. And I collaged onto some cream-colored cardstock, and I collaged pattern tissue and pattern instruction and pieces of the envelope. And this is cut from my catalog, and some lace. This is from the 1960s, I believe, and it was a sewing instructor's notebook. So it had some notes written on her notebook pages, and it had some pieces of fabric with sample stitching on it. I don't know if this was part of this. There wasn't anything attached to this page. Some of the samples are attached to the page, but they were all too big, and I didn't want to cut them to fit into the binder. So I took one that didn't have pieces attached, and I just added this piece. This is about pin tucks, and so this could be a pin tuck, but it might have been a student's work because it's not very neat. I added some of that green soft fringy trim to that page. This was something someone sent me in Happy Mail. I got several of these long cards, and I folded one end of it over to make a pocket. And this is just, we made this in the ephemera videos. And I collaged some napkins. They were simplicity napkins, so they're images from old patterns. So I collaged them onto the front. I think I just used glue. I didn't use Mod Podge. Some rickrack and a button, and then there's a little glassine bag here with a little pack of vintage needles, a vintage applique right there, and I just added some pages for journaling. Those napkins were given to me by Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Here I have some flashcards from the old design shop. They're printables. And I just made a little pocket. There's a pocket that I made with pattern instruction and a little piece of the envelope. And this is a piece from the wrapping paper. some vintage trim there. And I cut these sweet little girls from my 1969 catalog, glued them to cardstock. You can journal, you can write on the back of them, or just play with them. Play with some paper dolls. Pretend you're 7 years old again. I used to love playing with paper dolls. This is a pattern from 1987. Whoever owned it wrote it on there. It says stitching post. I have told you, although she spelled stitching wrong, I have told you that my mother owned a fabric shop in East Smithfield when I was in high school, and then she moved her shop from East Smithfield to Troy, Pennsylvania, which is a little bit of a distance away, maybe, well, probably half an hour, but more business. She'd get more business there. So then after she vacated her shop in East Smithfield, which is the town where I grew up in, if you can call it a town, another lady took over and opened up her shop and called it the Stitching Post. So this pattern came from there. And I'm not sure where I got it. Probably a flea market. My mother's shop was called the Sewing Box. Inside this envelope is a piece from my catalog. Here's the next divider card, and I think this is the fourth. Maybe I have 6 in here. I have 6 divider cards in here. So it just has this, I'm not sure what this was from. I put it on inside out because this is the smooth, neat seam. This is the inside, and I'm not sure what was going on here. There's a piece of seam binding or bias tape and some rickrack, and it's not sewn on there right, because anyway, I just thought this looked interesting, so I put that on the outside. This nice kind of a sheer fabric. Looks like a sleeve ruffle, or I don't know what it was, but I wrapped it around, and there's a different type of ruffle here, so it might have been a sample from the sewing class. And there's some journaling there. This is a printable that I got on Pinterest years ago. I think that was before I started buying digitals. I found images on Pinterest, and I didn't know how to print them smaller. And when I printed them, they were just a full page. So I've got several of these kind of pages. Not in here, but I have them. This is a piece of vintage stationery with some sewing notions there. There's 2 pages of the binder here. Wallpaper, and in here is an envelope with a window, some trim on it, and this tag that I made so that you can see them through the window. Wrapping paper. Some of the more fragile papers I put reinforcements on the holes. This one too. This is a vintage sewing book page. I just added a pocket here, and this tag, large tag that I made with an image from a sewing instruction page from a pattern. This is an envelope I made out of one of the 1980s pattern catalog pages. There's just a piece of scrapbook paper in there that you can write on, and then this made, I love this with the blue printing on it. It's from a 1940s pattern. On this binder or divider page, I just sewed some fabrics on the edge for fun, added this piece for journaling, and this triangle at the corner is open so you can tuck in. I have this fashionable lady and this tag tucked in there. This is one of the digitals from the old design shop. I still have some of these pages left over from the last, like last year when I made sewing journals. And I added these images. This is from a pattern envelope, this is from the catalog, and this is from the catalog. It's just a index card you can write on. I just made one paper clip I didn't do anything fancy to it. It has 2 of the flashcards on it, and it's just holding on this authentic journaling card. Didn't think I had it on the page. There we go. This is a Tim Holtz worn wallpaper page with a stamp of a sewing machine on it. And I made this pocket out of some authentic paper and added this to it and added this little piece to it, which is from a different authentic paper. This was from a sewing book, sewing instruction book, and it's a button gauge to cut and keep. So it just has different sizes of buttons on there. I thought it was fun. And especially that it's on a page full of buttons. I stamped this image on cardstock and sewed it on, or glued it on as a tuck spot, and added this page that you can write on, and then this girl is also glued to cardstock. You can journal on the back of her. This is fabric glued, sewn to that muslin looking paper. Looks like a photograph of fabric. And then this tag, one of my blue inventory tags. I think I only have 2 sets of these left. I Mod Podged some of the sewing instruction paper to it. This is authentic paper. And this pocket is made from a digital from Seneca Pond Crafts, and it was cut like this. I had cut pieces out of it, so I added a scrap of the authentic paper behind it to make it a full pocket. She's an image from a 1960s catalog pattern book, and another blue inventory tag. This is an actual page from my 1969 catalog. So this was a page of the tall images. Some skirts on the back. Told you this book was too full. There's wallpaper here, and then this card, which is to keep your papers from rolling under here, and I just added some trim. On the back I used the digital page from Seneca Pond Crafts, and I put on a plastic photo sleeve from an album. It had some holes here where it went into the album, and I just added some pretty seam binding. And this is one of those things that you would save your negative in here, but the flashcard fit in there perfectly. And then it says button, so I added this little digital button card. It says cute as a button, and then you can write on the back. I added the fabric tab to it so you can easily pull it out of the plastic. So there we have it. Now I want you to realize you have to, because this is going to get caught here and not want to close. Okay, I realized that after I had it all done. So just make sure you flop things over so that it doesn't get caught in there. There it is. This book is now in my shop, and you can follow the link, click on the link that I will leave in the description box, and go over to my shop, and if it's still there and you're interested in it, you can put it in your cart and take it home with you. If it's not there, it's because someone else already purchased it. But I hope that you enjoyed looking at the journal and being inspired to create something with a binder or some other type of book that you might have. And let me know what you're doing. Let me know if you're making sewing books. You've all expressed a lot of interest in this sewing journal series that I've been doing from the beginning when I started with the ephemera. So I really, really appreciate that. So if you have enjoyed this series, please click like and click the bell and leave a comment. I would really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I will see you in the next video, and have a wonderful creative day today. Bye bye.